like a craft beer through a pint glass. These are the gays of our lives. A show where Lisa and Avery get out their gay decoder rings to decipher the gay alphabet and bridge the gap between the older and younger LGBTQ community and everyone fucking else. And now here are your hosts, Lisa and Avery. Don't blame them.
Hey guys, it's Sears.
And Avery.
Today on The Gays of Our Lives, we have a pretty special guest.
We have State Representative from Iowa. Oh no, I forgot your last name and I feel bad. It's right there, Liz Bennett. I totally had Liz down and then I was like, oh no. And the worst part is, that's my fiance's maiden name. Okay, that's great. I know, that's bad. I got this. We're good. I got this. One more time.
All right. Hey guys, it's Sears.
And Avery.
And today on The Gays of Our Lives, we have a very special guest all the way from Iowa.
We have State Representative Liz Bennett.
Hi,
Yay!
everybody.
How are you doing out there?
You know what? I'm doing as well as can be expected in these times that we're having.
Are you working a lot more at the State House with everything going on?
Well, I've been working from home. We are on an emergency recess, and as you can imagine, a lot of constituent services and trying to get people connected with resources.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Of course, because you see the president and them out working, and you see them all together. And yeah, I didn't even think about. Yeah, you guys would probably be working from home as much as possible too, which is safe. I think it's cool how a lot of people are going to realize that you can work from home more than having to have this building and all the overhead for a lot of jobs.
Yeah, I think that would be good for a lot of people, be good for a lot of families.
For sure.
So I guess my first question is so I guess you guys are all working from home, but obviously the work you're doing is entirely different too. How is adapting to that been?
You know what? It's been okay. It's a little bit of a strange time because since we're in emergency recess, the legislature voted to give a lot of power to the governor in Iowa. So we're not really able to go in there and pass bills through committees or run bills. So to a large degree, we've kind of been watching for what the governor will do and then doing our best to connect people to resources and provide information. So it's quite a bit different.
Yeah. Wow. And I'm just and I can't imagine how quickly did that change come for you guys? Was that an overnight thing? Or this definitely surprised a lot of us.
Yeah, it was a quick change. I don't think it should have been as much as a surprise as it was for some people, because we've had indications about this. And one of our state senators was kind of waving the flag a couple weeks before we did have the emergency recess. So yeah, once they got the ball rolling and saying, whoa, we think things might get out of hand, we were out of there pretty quickly. So, and some things
it's crazy. It's crazy that some people did realize, because I actually had contacted a friend of mine who's an investor, beginning of March. I think it was before I left for LA, and I was in LA at the very beginning of March. And I said, hey, if I wanted to invest in something like containment or cleanup or something disaster relief, would that be okay? And I'm not the most educated, and knowledgeable person, but I kind of knew something was coming. I just don't understand how it wasn't well known out there that it was going to happen. But, like you said, somebody was waving the white flag.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's my frustration as a legislator, is that, the administration has had warnings of this, and there were even Congress people, and senators in DC saying, whoa, there's something coming at us here, and early action really did not happen. So that's been a frustration of mine, because I think that a lot of the interruption that we're seeing really could have been headed off at the pass if quicker action would have been taken.
Oh, 100. That's actually a conversation me and my future father-in-law had when it was first coming on. And he's like, really, this could have been stopped within 2 weeks if just the right action was taken from like the beginning. And it's just so much, there's just so much of like a lack of communication along the lines.
Yeah. Yep. So,
That's
but you know
true.
what? It is what it is, you know, so as a legislator, then I'm in the position of just seeing what I can do to help.
Because we're where we're at now. So yeah.
Right. We're here now.
So to go back to why we have you on, how do you identify, Liz?
I identify as queer. I'm not super wound up about labels, so bisexual's fine. I identify more as queer just because of some of the gender aspects. And I like kind of getting rid of that binary aspect, because that would be kind of correct in my lived experience.
Yeah. No, actually, that's really refreshing. Me and Sears and I have been having a lot of conversations about why non-binary language needs to be more common recently. And it's just funny because like it's just becoming so much more present and rapidly, and it's a kind of a beautiful thing to see. You're seeing it all the way from like fashion lines to lifestyles, and I mean, I work at Starbucks of all places, and I'm seeing it there. You know?
Yeah, I think it opens up a lot more space for people to just live. I think in my life, identity, I've seen identity and kind of fitting into a particular identity, as a gay person or a lesbian person or bisexual person. I think some of those rigid lines have been important, maybe because of safety, and knowing who is safe, who's not safe, et cetera. But, I think there are a lot of people out there on the gender spectrum who really would like to be free to live as they feel. And I think the same thing for people's sexual identities. There are a lot of people, different places on the spectrum, and it doesn't feel good to be shamed for any part of that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
That's true.
That's like a real
And I,
personality, and I've had before too. My fiance identifies as queer, and that's like just it's beautiful to hear that sentiment again. It's like it's a generally a true one. I'm sorry, Sears, I didn't mean
we've said, from like, I think the first episode, I said, why can't we all just be H for humans?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's that need, because people that aren't in the LGBTQ community, I think, look at somebody and go, we've been taught as children to go, what's that? What's that? And they have the need to know exactly what everything is. And that's where I think the gay alphabet basically comes into play, is because we feel like we have to teach them what to call us, or how to act with us. And if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah. It's been interesting in the legislature, as kind of my expression has changed, depending on things that have been going on. When I first went in 6 years ago, I'd say that I had a very traditional look, much like I do now. I was out in the community, but it wasn't necessarily something that I put on flyers, because that's not what I ran on. So there were some people who just didn't even know, probably until the end of my first session. So I think that I was treated very much kind of like the older legislators, like daughter or niece or something like that. After the election in 2016, I rage cut my hair. And so I went back in 2016 with most of my head shaved, and kind of like a pompadour.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting, because there was one representative, and I think he really didn't know what to do with me presenting that way. So instead of just continuing to say, oh, hey, Representative Bennett, or hey, Liz, he started kind of like punching me on the arm.
I love it.
And I was like, okay, I can see that this is, I think this is a well-meant gesture.
Yeah.
And I think you're just
like,
not
hey,
sure
buddy,
how to read me right now.
Yeah.
you know?
No, and it's totally like looking for like a kind of like an approval too from you, even like we're still good, like I love that.
It was interesting.
I think it's a lot with the older generation. They don't know how to respond necessarily all the time. And I mean, and that's kind of what this show came about, because I didn't understand trans, because I'm a 46-year-old lesbian and we didn't know what trans was back then, So, and the older generation, I think, struggle with it more than the younger, for sure.
Yeah.
So learning how
I
to
think,
treat you probably was,
yeah, it's interesting because like you come across, kind of that gender stuff, in terms of like your sexual identity, as well as just being treated like a woman, so when I started to grow that hair cut out, I started just like laying it down, because it was long and it just kind of took a long time in the morning to do, even though it was short hair. So I started kind of growing it out and laying it down. And this one day, a representative came over all the way across the chamber. And again, like I think this person did genuinely think that he was doing something nice. So he came over and told me, Representative Bennett, your hair is just looking so much better. I mean, you really are attractive. You are a pretty young woman, but that other hair, that was just too much. And so I think what I kind of read that as is that you, sir, are having trouble processing through the idea that a woman would come in here and clearly signal to you that I am not here for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting interaction in a couple different ways.
Oh man, yeah, like there's just so many layers to that. I mean, because there's like it does display like a huge amount of discomfort with like really like I mean, you call it a rage cut, but I feel like we always like kind of have like a flash of pride when we do the kind of big changes to our and I think like like and it kind of took a stab at that almost. That's crazy. So are you like a first for a lot of them? Like, you know what I mean? Like, are you like a first, like it, like of just like, you are kind of a minority and you are queer and you are a female in politics and you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm the first out queer woman, of any part of the spectrum to serve in the Iowa legislature. There were 2 out gay men who served before me, but yeah, I'm the first out woman. So.
Wow. And it's crazy how because I'm sure then it's so important to make sure like, you're also representing like, who every part of you. I'm sure it's so much pressure,
It's, it is a weird thing because, at a certain point you're like, can we just be done with this? Like, can people just be themselves? Like, can we please work on climate change now? Like, and clean energy?
Yes.
And so that's why I mean, like my first year, I really didn't go in and be like, excuse me, just so you know, because I didn't feel that was necessary.
Waving your flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem necessary. I did come to realize though that representation is important. And so I did just start to be a little bit more vocal about identifying that way rolling into my second year. Just because, look, like students come to the Capitol, plus the fact that there are students out there in Iowa who aren't going to get to come to the Capitol in the first place, who don't think that they know any other LGBTQ people. If those folks are only hearing negative things from their parents, negative things from their church, negative things on the news, I think it's really important that they know that, hey, there's somebody out there who might get mentioned once in a while, or who I might find on social media in my state legislature, who might know a little bit about what I'm going through and care about it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, Zach, we had Zach Adamson on from our city council. I don't know if you know him, but he's from the Indianapolis City Council and he's a gay man. And he said, a friend of his said, why do you always have to say Mayor Pete's gay? Why do you have to always say that? And he goes, because until now, it's been a disqualifier. And all these people out in little rural cities, or all these kids need to know, you know what, you can be anything you want. You can, it
Yep.
doesn't matter how you identify your gender or your sexual preference. You can be this. So they have to put a face to the monster, as we always say, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even more, I think reflecting back on, when I was a kid, or a teenager, I say I came out like officially kind of late, just working through like religious stuff and, family stuff
Mhm.
and stuff like that. I guess also it's funny, and maybe you'll identify with this a little bit, Lissa, but at a certain point you realize like, oh, I thought all girls did that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And you're like,
100.
oh,
Well, everybody does that. They just go through it at different paces, is what I always told myself.
Yeah.
I'm just
right. So,
Yeah.
but I think one of the things that was difficult for me was kind of like, trying to figure out what is the label, or I guess, I don't know, I know this person and here's how they identify and here's what they experience, but I don't exactly experience it that way. And I think as a teenager, you could just feel like so uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think I have been glad to say that, like, you know what, there are some people, and like, when you have that first crush on that babysitter,
Hmm.
that you're going to like
Yeah.
boys or you're going to like girls your whole life. You know what? There are a lot of other people out there who are like, I don't know, I just feel weird. So I guess giving voice to that has been something that I've taken joy from.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah, as you should.
how would you describe like the queer culture in Iowa? Give us kind of like a view of that. Would you say like, like gay people are really comfortable in Iowa? Would you say it's kind of still like a scarce thing? I'm just honestly just kind of trying to take a pulse.
Yeah. So I think it depends on where you're at. One thing to know about Iowa is that we've protected gender identity in our Constitution, in our civil rights laws for a long time.
Wow.
I think, gosh, what is it, 10 or 13 years?
That's
Um,
amazing.
Wow. That's a
yeah.
long
And
time.
so,
You're right.
and it was kind of this thing that just kind of was like, okay, like we're going to do this thing. And I'm pretty sure that was done in a bipartisan manner.
Mm.
Um, Marriage equality came down from our Supreme Court in 2009. And
Wow.
then I was on the ground here in Iowa. So that's kind of how I got really involved in politics. Was I was kind of here on the ground when that happened. I was a college student. And immediately there was a backlash,
Mhm.
as you can imagine. And so some of the things that I did was like I built teams and I knocked doors in some of the more rural places of Iowa to find out, what are people's opinions and who does actually support
Mhm.
um, gay people. So what was interesting was like my family from out of the state were like, oh my God, like you are going to get killed. And I was like, no, I think it's going to be
That's
okay. And we obviously didn't go talk to people who we knew were going to be hostile.
Right.
There certainly were people who weren't interested, but mostly
mhm.
they would be like, I'm not interested in talking about that. So I think that Iowa, there are some really good opportunities, and there are a lot of folks who are queer who are doing really well here. But there might be some communities that are a little more conservative as well.
Hmm. I'm,
So
I
Well,
was,
it's funny. It's funny you say that about, your family from out of town worried that you might get killed or whatever. When
mhm,
I came out back in '89, my mom was worried to death because that's when Matthew Shepard, and she was worried to death about me getting killed because
yeah,
of that. And it's just like, it's sad to think that was not that long ago that you were doing that, that people still worry about that. And you still have to worry about that, unfortunately.
yeah.
And
We
it's sad.
one thing that was really cool. So this past fall in the state house, we were able to pass a bipartisan ban of using the gay and trans panic defense as a defense for any violent crime.
wow.
And so, yeah, I was grateful that we were able to work on that, in a bipartisan way. So, um, I think there definitely are some people in Iowa who are like, well, let's be fair to people. Maybe they personally have mixed feelings about, homosexuality or queerness, but I think there are enough people here who also feel like, well, you also shouldn't do bad things to people. So
Yeah.
You guys are considered Midwest. I mean, you're a lot like Indiana, so it's really neat to see that you guys out there in the Midwest, you have a lot of farmers, I'm sure, um, are that much further advanced where people are more accepting. Because here, I mean, when you get into the rural areas, I think it's still a little tough. We're a very red state that I think
mhm.
it's tough, with some people.
Well, we did
Yeah.
produce the vice president, so
Love it. Love
we
it.
did
So
do that.
I
So
try to
yeah.
forget about that.
I think Iowa is like a lot of other places. I mean, we have places where it's going to be much more progressive. We have places where it's going to be slower to come along, but I think what is good is that, especially in this day and age of the internet, probably anybody living in the state is in, within an hour, 2 hours drive of somebody, that they can go to as a resource.
That's
oh,
good.
that's awesome. Because honestly, like, I've actually just recently found how few resources Indiana has for trans people the further you get from Indianapolis.
Mhm.
And it's crazy because I had no idea, because I live so close to Indianapolis. I was really, very sheltered in that way. And it's crazy, and it's awesome to hear that that's like a 2-hour drive for most people, because I can't say that about Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just, over the years, I've gotten to know just like a very dedicated group of folks from like PFLAG. There's a very dedicated progressive faith community in the state of Iowa. So those folks are just wonderful. We also have this awesome thing put on by a group called Iowa Safe Schools, and it's the governor's LGBT conference for youth. And
Wow.
so kids from GSAs can come to the Capitol, and they usually do a morning session on how to lobby, and then they come and they practice talking to legislators, and then they have speakers, and it's pretty amazing.
That's amazing. If there was something like that
Yeah.
available when I was in high school,
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's absolutely
Yeah.
amazing. Because that's just like giving birth to future advocates. That's amazing.
yes,
Absolutely. And
Oh,
teaching them how to be and act with it, and how
yeah,
to go fight for our rights.
yeah.
I
that's
went to a
awesome.
So
couple rallies here, with the gay marriage. I went to the state house for the rally here, and it was just like, hey, we're having this rally. But I mean, it wasn't, they don't really do anything above and beyond like teaching you how to go about doing that, like lobbying and stuff like that. So I think that's a great program to have for sure.
yeah, yeah. Now, we do have some work to do. So right before we went on our emergency recess, we had a huge incident where, very sadly, building administration and the law enforcement that runs the Capitol building violated the civil rights of students who were visiting the building with Iowa Safe Schools. So in Iowa, because gender identity is protected in our civil rights code, it's also been litigated that individuals do have the right to use the restroom that matches their gender identity. And it really, for the most part, has not been a thing. And I think that's why it's so surprising to a lot of people that, we've protected that here for so long, because it just really hasn't been a thing, right? So some incidents occurred, where kids who identified as trans, were using the restroom matching their gender identity. And then in one case, an individual who was assigned male at birth, but presenting, as female and identified as female, said, you know what, I'm just not going to deal with it today. I think it's going to go easier for me today if I just use the male restroom. I don't want to have any fights with anybody today. So even that individual, who said, okay, well, I'll use the restroom, of the gender that was assigned to me at birth, was harassed in the bathroom. So it was surreal. Like, the kids were kicked out. I couldn't believe it was going on. I ran into some kids in the elevator and they were crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And they said, well, we're getting kicked out of the building because of who we are. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, well, you know what? Let's go check and see what's happening. Maybe they're just going to clear things out and clean for COVID. Maybe there's like a misunderstanding, right? But sure enough, like once I got down onto the main level, they were just funneling people out the doors. I spoke to the person who looked like they were in charge. And basically they said like, well, these individuals were told that, basically they have to use whatever restrooms. And if not, they can go up to this one single stall restroom on the 3rd floor. And it was not good. Like there were kids who were left in the building. There were teachers who were not allowed to go back in. So you have teachers who are like, oh my God, where are my kids? You have kids outside who are like, where are our friends? Like we had this day, where it was awesome. I went to talk to them in the morning. And then, they came to do their lobbying practice and they got thrown out of the building, so that's something that really stays with you.
Yeah.
So we kind of had to put that on hold just because of everything with COVID-19, but we are heading back to the Capitol on June 3rd. And we do have a meeting scheduled to deal with that, because whether it's a matter of training or whatever, that should not happen to any citizen, much less high school students and middle school students. Like, what the heck, you guys? So like, they have not heard the last from us on that.
I am
bet.
glad to hear that you're not going to miss that opportunity to teach there too, because because you're exactly right. There's clearly like training that needs to be put in there, because that gave me chills. That is horrible. And honestly, it's my worst nightmare. Like when I think about it, like just being transgender in Indiana, like outside of certain areas, I'm not comfortable going to my bathroom. And it's like, I either hold it or, I face the music, but it's always very intimidating. And I can't imagine. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's
so, and, just the whole thing, I think it was a bad day for everybody, so like, I do think that, because I did speak with some of the officers, and I think that they thought that they were doing the right thing, because some concern was expressed that, well, what if one of the kids was assaulted, or, so I do think that some of the law enforcement individuals involved, like, were trying to do the right thing. I don't think that it was necessarily in the spirit of meanness or discrimination
or hate.
But, the training is where that comes in. So I really hope that, we can do some education on that, so that in the future, like, we want the kids to have a good experience in their capital, and be valued as citizens. And I bet if things would have gone differently, like the law enforcement officers probably would have had a better day too. So
yeah, that's probably true. But it is about education. Everything, is about education.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's less hate or, any of that kind of stuff when people are educated more, I think.
Yeah.
So, and that's why we're doing this. And like you said, you saw this person be a lesbian this way or a bisexual this way. And that's why we have people come on and explain their identities, because not everybody's trans the same way or a lesbian the same way. And we want it not textbook. We want it from the individual to explain how they feel, because people need to know if you don't fit the textbook, it's okay.
Yeah. I think that's so valuable. Like, I think that's awesome. That's so valuable. I think really it seems like the past, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10 years, I've seen, kind of that grow in the community. And I think that's the best possible thing.
I think in the last decade, it's all these faces coming out and saying like, this is who we are. Like, that's how I was able to even become my full self. So it's like truly, and honestly, it's from people doing the work that you do. So I can't tell you how much I do appreciate that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no, for real. Like, cause like I can't, especially programs and fighting for the people who need to be fought for, but having understanding and compassion for both sides. You have a really balanced head, and I love that. I love it.
Oh, thanks.
And you
I
not
just think
hiding
that,
it, that helps.
yeah. So I don't know, something that really shaped me was when I was working for One Iowa. We got a letter from a lady, and it was a handwritten letter. And you could really tell that this lady was really struggling with her understanding, of LGBTQ folks. Because the entire handwritten letter was mostly about, like, don't you know that the Bible says this, and you're sending people to hell, and Sodom and Gomorrah. But what was interesting to me was that her tone wasn't so much like, you're going to hell and I'm glad for it. It was, I'm really concerned that
Hmm.
this is going to be bad. And then on about the third page of her letter, she just kind of abruptly changed to, well, there are two ladies who live on my street, and they have a son, and I know they love their son, and I don't want anything bad to happen to them, but I still think this is really bad. So I guess in my work, I guess I do try to meet people where they're at as much as I can,
Hmm.
because not everybody has the words um, to talk about this issue. Like, if you can tell that somebody just totally, like, no, like, they're just totally, like, they're being a hateful person, like, they do not care about discrimination, like, you are doing bad things to people and you don't care.
Right.
Like,
Hmm.
all right, what am I going to do about that? But I have seen that there have been other times when you can sit on somebody's doorstep with them, and maybe move their understanding a little bit. So those are valuable times.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have a lot of friends that are like, I just don't understand this or that.
Mm-hmm.
And and so I've learned a lot myself, being an older
Mm-hmm.
lesbian. So I've tried to help educate some of those people. And what I found is a lot of people are more willing to listen and learn nowadays than they used to be,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think it's been good for me personally, to see a transition to some more flexibility. Because one of the things I didn't expect when I ran for office was biphobia. Um, Kind of came out of nowhere and just like smacked me across the
Hmm.
face. And it's weird because for the most part, so for example, like when I did come out, I was kind of like, okay, look, like, I am going to give myself the freedom to live a life that is honest, and feels good for me. So, like, whatever adult I love, I'm going to feel free to love that person, like,
Hmm.
regardless of whatever their parts are. Um, and so when I was doing LGBTQ advocacy work, a lot of people got to know me when I was in a long-term relationship um, with a woman, right? Sadly, that relationship, came to the point where we needed to do other things. And, so like along the way, you date different people and then you find somebody and you like them, right? That person happened to be, a cisgendered man. So what I expected when I ran for office was that, people might be like, ooh, we don't think that we can elect, somebody who, like, has a history of lesbianism, or
Hmm.
something like that. But
Right.
what really actually came to me was somebody said, okay, I'm just telling you this because it's out there and I think you need to know it. Um, the comment has been made about you. Isn't she that girl who was in a relationship with a girl for a long time and now she is with a man?
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
and it's it's a weird feeling because before you run for office, you're kind of like, I don't care what you think, you know. But then,
Right.
like, when you take a step into running for office, like, you are
Yeah.
suddenly exposed, So, like, the feeling of, like, maybe a community that you've been very much a part of, um, maybe not wanting you to be part of that community at a time when you're also so exposed because of running for office was, like, terrifying to me.
So did you get biphobia more from the gay community, you think?
yeah, like it was, coming from there, but I'll tell you what caught me off guard is recently, um, it reached my ears that I don't know how this person identifies, but it's another elected official. It reached my ears that this other elected official tells people, that since my current partner now is male, that I shouldn't say that I'm LGBTQ.
Um,
And I'm like, that's not really how that works.
right. Like
No.
you tell people how you identify. People don't tell you how, what? And you,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so weird. And I'm kind of like, that's like, we don't even have to go into all the reasons why. It's just like, no,
yeah.
like it's just not how it works. Like, you don't tell how people, how they identify, and like, you don't know how people feel. And plus, like, when you do that to people, you are putting them on the spot, where number one, like, you're putting it on them to somehow like prove to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, what, I mean, like, there are just so many things wrong with that.
That's just
Yeah.
not your job at the end of the day. You don't have to explain why you identify a way. If you choose to even give them that information, that's just crazy.
I mean, if a straight man said all of a sudden, "Hey, I'm queer," but he's only been with women, then oh well, guess what? He identifies that way. Leave him alone.
Yeah,
It,
like, I think he knows how he feels better than you know how he feels.
yeah.
oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is. But I can see that because, we had another person on that said, a lot of the lesbians, especially, are like anti-bi, if that makes sense. Kind of like, oh, bi isn't real, or something like that. I think she said something like that. They've said, bi isn't real, and it's been more from the lesbians, I guess, that have been more bi shaming.
Yeah, I don't know. And, I don't know, about that. I'll tell you, it is weird, to be told by a girl that you're trying to talk to, that, like, you're not, that you shouldn't say that you're LGBTQ, because you're like, wait, what? Like, uh, this isn't how I talk to my just friends,
Right?
you
Like,
know?
how do
Yeah.
you put that down?
So
Like, you're like, but right, so this isn't, oh, okay.
yeah, you're like, what are we doing? Like, I could ask, I could go back to Catholic school and ask the nuns if this is like straight. I don't know. So I don't think they would say it is, though.
They have pretty like
Yeah.
rigid lines on that. I feel like they could help that
Yeah.
definition.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So now it's kind of a funny story how we actually met. And I kind of cued in Avery earlier because he had no clue, but you work at GoDaddy too, don't you?
I do, and I need to say that I am in no way any type of representative, for GoDaddy at all, outside of my job there. But yeah, you called in and I was like, oh, look at this, so I thought what you were doing was so cool. And, we had a conversation from there, and I kind of started following what you were doing. So,
And I just think that's great that we were able to, and people are able, I've met a couple people when I've called in there to help me with our website, and they've been like, oh, hey, I'm queer, or I'm trans, or, and we get to follow each other. And it's really neat how
GoDaddy's diverse hiring right now.
that's what I mean. GoDaddy is obviously very diverse, and I think that's awesome. And I'm grateful to that because that's how I got to meet you. So.
Hey guys, it's Lisa with The Gaze of Our Lives, and this week's episode is sponsored by my own CBD line through Denver CBD. It's actually the first one in town here that has vitamin D in it, and it's also helping with different causes. The strawberry flavor, 5% goes to cancer support community. The orange flavor, 5% goes to the National MS Society. Use my code LISA20 and get 20% off your order.
But
Yeah.
right now we have a section that we like, it's called Gaze Ask with the K.
oh,
And just some questions, just some fun questions. Random, no right or wrong answer or anything like that. So, Abe, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll totally go first.
All right.
So first, it's long-winded, but it's worth it. Okay. So
Okay.
what do
Should I
you?
take notes?
No, it's a pop quiz, no notes. So
Okay.
what do you think Iowa is best known for, and what do you wish it was?
Oh
That's
gosh.
different.
That's a pretty
So
dumb
this
question.
is like this meme, that meme that it's like what people think I do, what I actually do.
Yes,
Yep.
exactly like that.
Okay, so I think okay, let me tell you this. So Jon Stewart, after we legalized marriage here, he put up this graphic that was like a tractor with like a hay thing with it. And he's like, is this the gay pride parade in Iowa? So I think that pretty much I think that pretty much tells you like what people think is Iowa. I think people think Iowa is like hay and corn.
I love it. That's awesome.
What do what I wish we were known for is that Iowa actually has kind of a very quiet, progressive history, with court decisions regarding slavery, like court decisions regarding, women's rights, graduating women from medical school before other states were doing that.
That's cool.
Wow.
So I wish that's what we were known for a little bit more. Also, Jason Momoa's grandma lives here, and he lived in
Whoa, you
Iowa
didn't
for a
know that
while.
counts?
So that's right. So take that, other states.
Oh, okay. So this is one I usually ask. I like it. If you could have dinner with anybody, who would it be and why?
Oh my God, I hate these questions. I don't know. Because why I hate these questions? Because I feel like any of the people that I would say, I envision myself sitting there at dinner and being like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here right now. Right? I'll tell you who I got to have dinner with. A couple months ago, I got to have dinner with Congresswoman Katie Porter from California.
Okay.
And you may have seen a video of her totally grilling like a banking exec. So I'd say she's like my favorite, famous person I've ever had dinner with. So for some reason, Sinead O'Connor is like popping into my head.
That would be that you couldn't say it would be interesting.
Yeah,
I love Sinead
would be
O'Connor.
that would be a very interesting dinner for sure.
Yeah, or somebody like Tori Amos, or like I don't know, one of my '90s girl idols or something.
Oh, that's good.
Ani or something like that.
Yeah, just so I could sit there and be like, I really like you,
Geek out.
Right.
All right, my next one is if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, I hate these questions. Gosh darn it.
These are not that bad. They're not too deep.
Superpowers. I'm just like, I'm not imaginative that way.
Okay, but just simplify some part of your life with it then. Get creative that way. Simplify a super random thing in your life.
Okay. So this is really shallow. Okay, but okay. If I had a superpower, it would be to be able to do like perfect hair and makeup, like in like 1 minute. That'd be awesome.
Like almost like a TikTok video, just like boom, and it's done. I like it.
Yeah, if I could just like get that brush and be like that would make my life a lot easier.
100. That's a perfect answer.
All right. If you could be on any reality show, what one would it be on?
Oh gosh, darn it. I don't. Well, okay. You know what? I would probably want to be on a reality show where, like one that's on Animal Planet. Like where Oh, isn't there one called That's My Baby about baby animals being born?
Oh my God.
Ooh, I don't know.
But now
Okay, there used to be. Okay, I want to be on a reality show where I just get to like pet baby animals.
That's
I
perfect.
would really like that a lot. That's probably the one that I like identify with the most.
That's
if you like
perfect.
it, you go for it. That's how it works.
Right.
All right. This last one is a little bit more of a challenge than it is a question. And if you thought you hated those other questions, you're probably going to hate this more.
Ah!
This is not me. It's all him.
I want to hear your best dad joke.
Oh, geez. Okay, hold on.
That's all right.
It's like the only dad jokes that are coming to mind right now are like dad jokes that like are not okay.
We do
Gosh.
have an explicit rating, so
Yes,
you
we're
are
fine.
allowed to use one of those. I just can't use the trailer, and that's fine.
They're like dad jokes that were like funny in the 70s, but like
Yeah,
we don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, gotcha.
What's a good dad joke? Let's see here. Darn it. I'll tell you something that I think is funny that's related to my dad. How about that?
There you go.
That's an answer.
Okay. So a while ago, this was maybe like last year, I was just like scrolling Facebook, and for some reason these ads were on my Facebook, and it was like acid washed or something, or just like really light, like cut off jean shorts with the pockets sticking out. Okay. And like tennis shoes and socks. And I was like, what is this? And I like clicked on it. It was like, like these were like $600 shorts or something. And I was like, why is my dad's lawn mowing outfit on the internet
Oh my God.
for like $600? Like, just get some Champion tube socks, okay? Like, cut off your jeans, like, which will be the only time your legs will ever see the sun. And like get some New Balance shoes, and like you don't have to pay $600 for that. Like, it's very easy, people. I can help you. Like, maybe I should be a stylist or something.
Hey, you could build the 90s, 80s look for everybody.
Yeah, like I'm here to help. That is just one of the many services that I could provide to the public.
There you go.
Especially if you had that superpower, then you could do it like lickety split.
Oh, and then you could everybody's perfect hair.
Right? You could take care of everybody.
Right. I mean, like if you really want to get into it, like we could get a Flowbee.
That could be Flowbee.
That could be the next thing.
Up on our show. We have
I've said that because of this quarantine. I'm like, we need to get Flowbees, because when we can't go out and get haircuts, this is not okay.
Hey, my fiance
back to Flowbee.
Fans Flowbee.
Your fiance did a good job. It looks really good.
Yeah, she kept like messing with me, going, "Oops," and I'm like, "That's not okay. That's not okay. That's not okay."
Yeah, that's not okay.
It looks great.
That freaked me out.
But your hair looks great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz. I'm so glad we finally got connected, that you could be on our show. We appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, Lisa and Avery. And I really appreciate what you're doing with this. I think the more that we can understand each other within our community, the more that we can work together to, keep accomplishing better lives for everybody in the community. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Really, like that was just, that touched me. Thank you.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
I can't wait to check back in with Iowa in a year from now and see what's going on outside of COVID. Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Hey guys, if you want to be on our show, you can contact us at www.laughs.life. There's a contact me page.
Or you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Snapchat, or TikTok. And you can follow Representative Liz Bennett at
social media. Liz?
Oh, okay. You want me to talk now? Awesome.
Yeah, sorry,
yep,
your turn.
You can follow me on Instagram at Rep Liz Bennett. And you can follow me on Twitter at Liz Bennett Iowa, but I don't really understand the Twitter, so get me on Instagram or Facebook.
I can't tweet it. I get
Yeah.
it.
No.
Yeah.
So thank you.
This has been Gays of Our Lives. Make sure to check out the Gays online at www.laughs.life.